You know the way people are usually like, come, let's Netflix and chill. I have come, let's book and chill with this book before. Hello. So today we are going to be cataloging all the books on my physical shelf as well as on my ebook shelf, and accounting for them, and also dividing them into books that I will read before the end of the year, books that I will read early next year, and by month, because I've realized if I don't categorize these books and I keep reading haphazardly, I'll never get any of these books read, and I'll just keep buying more and more books and never reading a single one. So let's get right into it. So I'll start with books on my shelves and on my tiny little store that I've read. And if you used to watch my Instagram reels, my shelves are here and I'm so excited. Oh, I was saying ignore the place on my wall where my paint is stripped. I stack my cards on my wall and then I pull them out haphazardly. But I guess that's not important to the plot. So back onto the books that I've read from my catalog. The first ones I think are pretty easy. I have read and reread these books a million times, and it's my Harry Potter series. There's one missing. The Cursed Child. It's my Harry Potter series. So I don't have the full complete series because I keep getting different ones from these ones, like the different editions, and I want them all to match. See, like this one. Where do I take this? So there's those books. I've not read them this year though. I've reread them, but I guess that doesn't count. Barry Trotter, which is a Harry Potter parody. We have Agatha Christie and Mary Higgins Clark. This should also be Mary Higgins Clark. These are my detective books. I have read all of these 4 books.
So, those should go on my... I feel like I should just stop lying, you know. Part of starting an account on books is to be truthful with yourself and with people.
I've read these 2 books. These ones, I have not read completely. So these will go on my have read pile. And then these ones will go somewhere here. Oh, I've read this book. It's my favorite book. You can tell because it's very, very old. It is the best book to ever exist. I will make a review for this book because it touches me somewhere deep. We have Jonathan Kelman. This book was gifted to me. I have not finished reading it. So I think I should just start with the books that I've recently bought, and then I'll go into everything. That way I feel less worse about all the old books that I bought like years ago and I have not read. Okay. So the most recent books I bought are these 4. I have not gotten around to reading them. So there's Soleri, The Empty Throne, and Beware the Night, and All We Could Have Been. These 2 are high fantasy. This is young adult fantasy, and this is fiction. I plan to read Soleri before the end of the year, so I'll put that here. I'll put my I will read before the end of the year pile here, and I will read early next year pile somewhere. Okay, on my most recent purchases, we have Heaven by Mieko Kawakami. Also, I am trying to get into a lot of Asian literature, the ones that are translated, because those books are amazing and nobody ever speaks about them. This I'll finish before the end of the year. Next, we have The Secret History by Donna Tartt. What does that say about the state of my books? Are my books really that dusty? I'll read this book by the end of the year. What day is it today? 12th December. I have time. This I have read. If you watch my reels on Instagram, you would know that. I have read I have reviewed. There are mixed reviews on this book online. I understand both parties. However, I liked this book purely for vibes. I only liked it because I wanted to like it. If I'm being critical and I'm thinking about it from the perspective of I want to give an honest critical review, this book has its shortcomings, and they're quite a number. We have this book. I don't know whether the problem is me, but that doesn't seem correct. Am I the problem? Is the problem I? I don't know whether I am the problem, but this book has stumbled me. I have been unable to finish it. The English is just, let's just say English is not my first language. And besides, there should be no shame in not speaking English. Okay. I put my half-reads here. But do I plan to finish this book this year? Yes, I will finish this book this year. The next book is this one. I am ashamed to say that I have posted a video on this book on my Instagram. It was probably the first video that I posted, and I have never finished it. I will finish this. This is a half-read book that I will finish by the end of the year. So we have 3 half-read books I plan to finish by the end of the year, and 2 completely untouched books that I plan to read sometime this year. I'll put these 2 in my will read early next year pile. So this is my almost complete Game of Thrones book set. I am missing one book, and that is the book that comes right here. That would be A Storm of Swords book 1. But okay, these I bought recently, so let me start with these. Out of these, I have read these 2, so these should go to completed pile, and then these I'll read late next year. Okay. If you have seen my reels, you know my love-hate relationship with this book. I have been unable to finish this book. However, I will finish it because I committed to it, and there's no possible way that I sacrificed my mental sanity, my sleep, my joy to read the first 75 pages of this, I don't want to say horrible book, of this horrible book, and then not commit to the end. I'll finish that book by the end of the year. This is the next book, Catching Stars. Oh, I should have said what this book was called. This book is called Little Rider by Larissa Ione. Little Rider by Larissa Ione. Next is Catching Stars. I was actually very enthusiastic when I bought this book, and then I went and saw the reviews online, and everyone was like, they hated it. It had like a 3.1 rating, and now I have been unable to finish this book. I have finished this book by Larissa Ione. It could be worse, but there's more to this book. There are deep connections. There are deep familial connections. There's friendship. I'm lying. The next book I have is Lord of the Abyss by Nalini Singh. Why would you put a naked man on the cover of a book? It makes that book just look like it's smart. Next, we have Pride, Prejudice and Zombies. I'm unable to finish this book purely because of laziness. I will read this book early next year. So early next year pile here. Now, I'm about to confess this, and this is actually, I'm ashamed of this one. My friend bought me this book. I have told her I have read it, but I do endeavor to read it early next year. I promise, I'm not lying. Early next year, January. So this is going to be my January pile. Okay. Here is my children's books pile. I have obviously read all these children's books. Roald Dahl. He wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I had Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Someone stole it. But this is Danny, the Champion of the World. I read it. We have Little House in the Big Woods. This is actually my favorite book of all time. It was gifted to me about 10 years ago. This is 2022. 10 years ago by one of my closest friends. I doubt she can remember this. Next is A Series of Unfortunate Events. I've not bought this book. I've not watched the Netflix show. I bought it because it looked nice. It's a children's book, so maybe that's why it hasn't appealed to me. But I can read this before the year is over, honestly, if I'm not being lazy. Next is these 2 books. First, let me start with World Without End by Ken Foley. I feel as though I bought these books just because, purely based on the vibe I was going for at the moment. I have found that I am tempted to buy high fantasy, and I mean constantly. If you can't tell by my Game of Thrones books, I want to read high fantasy, but it is difficult to read. It's difficult to read, it's difficult to understand, and then they're always like this thick. And because it looks so nice, you can't tell me this book doesn't look nice. So mid next year. Next is this, The Prairie of the Orange Tree. This book, this is not its original form. Once again, Nairobi. I keep telling you people, Nairobi. You're a bookseller with an online account on Instagram. You tell people they can get reliable books from you. They order books and then you send them the most generic photocopied books on earth. Honestly, if you're one of these people, I hope you don't get good rest. I won't even show you the spine because that's just embarrassing. I'll get the original book after I have read this one, and then I will give this one out to someone. But I do plan to read this book. I mean, this is also high fantasy, but this is a high fantasy book that I plan to read just because I hear it has amazing sapphic representation, and we are always here for that. So I'll read this mid next year. The next book we have is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I want to read this book. Before I even say I want to read this book, I told you guys, Nairobi, you close your eyes for 1 minute, you give a book person your money. Before you know it, you have a book whose spine is upside down and the front cover is right side up. Like, look at this. It looks essentially normal. How do you put this on your shelf? Like so. Why is the spine upside down? I will read this book. I will get the original book. I will give this out to my friend. This I should read in February. I have read this. As I said before, Nairobi. I have read this. I loved it. I will get the original one. I will give this one out to my friend. Minor technical difficulties, but I will give this one out to my friend after I have gotten another one and re-annotated it. So this one, complete pile. Next we have Crooked Kingdom. This is the sequel. This is the sequel to The Six of Crows, so it's a duology. And first, before I say this, I posted a picture of me having dressed up as my favorite Six of Crows character. And then someone I know, you know yourself, was like, this is such a trash book. Anyway, this is the second book, which I will only read after I have watched season 2 of Shadow and Bone on Netflix and season 3 whenever it comes out, because this is a spoiler and I want that first-hand experience. I want to cry. I want to be heartbroken. The next book we have is Mockingjay. March reading. Now the books behind here are behind here because they are severely ugly and I do not want them displayed anywhere or affiliated with me. So we'll start with these ones at the corner. Oh no, I have a J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. How could I forget? This, where should this go? Okay, let's just do for February. This is on my to-be read list for February. I actually read this book. It looks like the cover. You know, don't judge a book by its cover. Judge this book by the cover. This book, and this book. These 4 books, judge them by the cover. Judge them by the cover. All official trademarks and logos copyrighted by Rain. We have Sins of the Night. I've not read this book. Although someone gave me this book and then took my book, it's not interesting. Where should I put this? Books that I will never read. It should have its own pile. Yeah. Okay, next we have these. These are not technically books. These were gifted to me by my dad. There's irony in that statement, I promise. So on the final books in my physical library, we have Deadly Embrace by Jackie Collins. We have this one, which I have a review, a quote-unquote review of on my Instagram. Shakespeare's Hamlet, the manga. I have read this, so this should, I have not finished it though, so I should just add it to my January reads. I don't want to read these books in January now. Let me read these in January and then let me read these in February. So I'll add Shakespeare's Hamlet to the February list. I have the same issue with this that I have with Jane Austen. I feel like I understand, but I don't understand. The next book we have is Fat Boy and the Dancing Ladies, which is an African literature book. I want to read this actually. I want to read more African literature. We should read books written by our own authors before we read books written by other authors, whether that be ebooks, not ebooks, whether that be fantasy, fiction, contemporary, because African writers actually have a diversified, what do I call it? They have diversified content because of the different cultures. And whilst we are on that topic, I was having this conversation with a friend lately, and the question arose as to why a lot of African authors prefer to write literature than fantasy. And I was of the opinion that we don't have the luxury as Africans to write fantasy. Does that make sense? We want, when we, or at least authors, African authors, at least I feel as though when you write something, you want to write something that does something. Does that make sense? Like that does, that evicts thought, that pushes the masses, that sort of like a call to action. We don't have the luxury to just write for leisure because of the history that we've had of colonialism, of neo-colonialism, of coup d'etats. Every time you want to write to evoke something from the masses and not just write leisurely. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. I hope it does. But I'll read this in February. Next, or finally, we have my 2 Diana Gabaldon books, which I have not read. They have a series on Netflix, the Outlander series. This is the first book, and I think this is the 3rd or 4th book. I don't know why I got them differently, like why I didn't get the other 2 books. I assume it's because they weren't available. But I do want to read these 2 books. So I will read them in, we have January, February, March, April. These are my April reads. Next, I want to tackle my ebooks and the books that I have read via ebook this year. So my ebook library has a lot of books, and I would have loved to insert a screen recording, but you'll judge me because, yeah. So the first book that I have read The Viscount Who Loved Me, I've read Delilah Green Doesn't Care, I've read the Bad Habits trilogy, those are 3 books. I have read For Real, I've read another book whose name I won't say. I've read, okay, it's called Danger Zone. I've read Danger Zone, I've read the Want Me series. I feel like these books sound like they're just smart-ish. I've read the Want Me series, which has about 4 books, so those are 11. I have read Tangled Like Us series, which has 4 books, 15. I have read Addicted series, just 1 book, that's 16. I have also read this Psychopath Serial Killer stories, which has about 6 books. So those are 22 books that I've read from my ebook library this year. Let me just account for those. So I've read 22 books. 22 books in ebook this year, and then there are 3 books that I want to read next year. The first one is A Master of Gin, the second one is Children of Blood and Bone, and the third one is Children of Virtue and Vengeance. The last 2 are an African high fantasy duology by Tomi Adeyemi. I love Tomi Adeyemi. Read Tomi Adeyemi if you have the chance. So those are 3 books on my to be read ebook. And how many books would that leave me? I think I have read physically these books right here. So those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Plus the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is not here, 10. So I've read 10 books, so that's 32 books. So that would mean I have read 32 books this year. I have taken account of all the books that I bought. I have read 32 books this year. I bought 26 books this year. Out of the 26 books that I bought, I have read 10 books from the 26. So I have not read 16 books from the 26 that I have bought. From my total book count, I have not read 29 books. That is ebook plus physical. 26 of my physical books I have not read. 3 of my ebooks I have not read. So for next year, I want to read. That would be for my TBR list next year, to be read list. I have 29 books. 29 books on my to be read list. 32 books on my finished list. And then on my to be purchased list, I have a very long to be purchased list, so I've categorized them in terms of urgency. On my to be purchased list, I'd say I have urgently, I want to read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Janet McCurdy, The 7 Moons of Mali Almeida, and Pachinko. Also half of A Yellow Sun. So my to be purchased list has 1, 2, 3, 4 books. That is it for my book catalog today. I hope to see you next week on Friday. I will be uploading all my bookish content on Fridays. However, I will have slight book, not slight, I would say summarized book reviews on my Instagram if you're interested in that. And I guess I'm done. This is the part where I say don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And read any of the books that I have prescribed. If you were to leave here today with books that you should read, let this be the first one. This one right here. So I hope all of you get the chance to read this. And maybe 6 of Crows. But this first. And that is it from me today. Until next week Friday. Bye.